Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהגיענו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. Join us, please. Shabbat Shalom. It is the first Shabbat of 2022, and we thought, what better way to open it than praising God for bringing us to this time of the year. My name is Barry Nicholsberg, and I am honored to be the cantorial soloist here at Temple Beth David. We are in Snellville, Georgia, just outside of Atlanta. Wherever you are, please let us know by typing in where you're from there in the chat box. In the meantime, I would like to thank a few people. Absolutely, Bobby Horowitz, who is with us as our lead guitar. My wife, Jeannie Nicholsberg, is here as well. And back on the streaming board is Denise Whitlock, and our president as well is Judy Kern. Judy will be up here in just a moment. I do want to send out a hello to those who are in this Shabbat band but cannot be here this evening because of illness. And so, Andrew St. Clair, please get yourself back here as soon as you can. Frank Monteleone, we're sorry that you and Ellen are not feeling well. We've added you to the Mishaberach list, and we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks from tonight. With that, I am going to ask... I'm sorry?
Heather and Jim.
Heather and Jim.
Heather and Jim.
Oh my goodness, of course, Heather and Jim. How could I possibly have forgotten Heather and Jim? They normally stand here. Heather and Jim Murray are also not feeling well this evening. 'Tis the season to be not feeling well. 2 days ago, there were 1,080,000 Americans who were diagnosed with COVID, and that is clearly an all-time record. I know year and a half ago, we bemoaned that the number was up to 250,000 people in a single day, and now we're over 1 million people. It is absolutely extraordinary. And we have a new disease? Just
The flu and COVID together.
Flu and COVID simultaneously. You really have to have some bad karma for that. So, with that, Judy, I'm going to step out of the way so you can be seen. I'm going to ask you folks to turn to page 120 and 121 as we bring in the Shabbat by lighting the Shabbat candles.
Please join me on the top of page 121. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam. Well, I think I started the wrong song, Bobby. As a matter of fact, I'm positive that I did. So let me get to the right song. Yes, most people would be embarrassed by this, but I've done it enough that I
leave embarrassment at home. Bobby, you want to start?
You just lost me too.
Well, maybe we won't do the candle blessing for the night.
sing it.
Or this could be a very interesting evening where every song we cannot remember.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, listen to Jeannie. She's got it.
And yet, that's not the key, so let's not do that.
Let's not do it.
Here, I'll do it without.
You do without.
Baruch atah Adonai. Nope, I'm still. Hey, folks, it happens sometimes. We're moving right along. I'm glad that the candles were blessed, and with that, we're going to Lecha Dodi. And I have no idea what tune Bobby is going to play, but I sure hope I can sing it.
You want to do the dance variety for a change?
The one we did last week, or the one I like to do?
The one you like to do.
Oh boy, thanks. I like this one a lot. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, penei penei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, penei penei Shabbat nikabela la 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 la. Lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, penei penei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, penei penei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor bezachor v'ripor echad, ishmi'anu el hamuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, l'shem u'tiferet la 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 la. Lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, penei penei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, penei penei Shabbat nikabela. Hitoreri, kiva orech kumi uri, uri shir daberi. Kivot Adonai alayich li la 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 la. Lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, penei penei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, penei penei Shabbat nikabela. Bohi v'shalom. Would you please stand and face the door you came in as we greet the Sabbath bride? Bohi v'shalom, ateret bala, gam besimchat zola, toch emonei am sigula. Bohi chala, la 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 la. Lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, penei penei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, penei penei Shabbat nikabela la 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 la. Lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, penei penei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, penei penei Shabbat nikabela. Thank you. Please, spiritually or physically or both, have a seat. With that, I am going to ask you to turn to page 144 in the Mishkan Tafillah, which is the Chatzi Kaddish, also known as the Reader's Kaddish. And Bobby, would you honor us, please, by leading it?
Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah,
Amen.
Be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechonu v'yomechon, uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael. Bagala, bagala, uvizman kariv, v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach, le'alam u'al me'al maya, yitbarach, yitbarach, v'yishtabach, V'yit bar, v'yit raman, v'yit naseh, v'yit hadar, v'yit aleh, v'yit alal, shemei dekudasha barichu, le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran b'alma, v'meru, amen.
Ask you to turn to page 146 and rise for the call to worship, the Baruch Hu. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamivorach Baruch Adonai Hamivorach Hamivorach Leolam Va'ed Hamivorach Hamivorach Leolam Va'ed. Thank you. Please be seated. I'd ask you please to turn to page 148 and join with me reading at the bottom of the page, starting with Blessed are you. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzavot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening. Baruch atah Adonai. Hadvarim. Hamavarim.
Ha'avir.
Aravim. Well, this is an interesting evening. Let me try this again. Would you turn to page 150 and join me starting with everlasting love. Everlasting love you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. And finally, would you please turn to page 151 as I read wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol. All these things your Torah gives to us. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Before I ask you to rise for the Shema on page 152, I just want to say that in preparing the Devar for this evening, it never, ever ceases to amaze me that the Devar has something critically important to say at that very moment in time. And you will hear about that in just a little bit. With that, I would ask you please to turn to page 152 and rise for the Shema. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kivon Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kivon Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Please be seated. If you will, please turn to page 154. You are welcome to join me in chanting the V'ahavta. For those of you not fully familiar with this comes straight from our Torah, and so it's the music is actually called trope. It is completely different from anything we know today. What's so interesting, and it just amazes me every time I do this, is that if you're here with us in Snellville, Georgia, or you're in Moscow, Russia, or you're any place on earth, hearing this V'ahavta, you will hear it the exact same way, no matter where you go. We all use the same notes, which date back more than 3,000 years. Page 154. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayo hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinatam levanecha v'dibahatar bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha u'v'leftecha b'derech u'b'shovtecha u'v'kumecha u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu l'totafot bein einecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'v'hisharecha L'man tizkaru ve'asitem et kel mitzvotai v'yetem kadoshim leloechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher otzeichem mieretz Mitzrayim liot lachem lelohim ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem emet. Page 158. Please read with me at the bottom of the page, starting with, who is like you? Who is like you, O God, among the gods that are worshipped? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in splendor, working wonders? Your children witnessed your sovereignty, the sea splitting before Moses and Miriam. This is our God, they cried. Adonai will reign forever and ever. Thus it is said, Adonai redeemed Jacob from a hand stronger than his own. Praised are you, Adonai, for redeeming Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. Please join us as we sing Mi Chamocha, also found on page 158. Ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la la, ya la 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 la. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha neder b'kodesh, Nora tehilot oseh fereh, Nora tehilot oseh fereh. Malechutecha hara'u vanecha, bokei ayam lishtim she'u Miriam, Za'eliyan v'yamru, Za'eliyan v'yamru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha neder b'kodesh, Nora tehilot oseh fereh, Nora tehilot oseh fereh. Thank you for joining us for that. I'm going to ask you to join us now, turning to page 160, as we sing my all-time favorite lullaby, Hashkivenu. And I think tonight, I'm just giving Denise fair warning, which I think is only fair, that I think I'm going to interpret it from up yonder. So we will do this in Hebrew, we will do it in English, and we'll also do it in American Sign Language. I hope you enjoy it. Hashkivenu.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom, v'hanidenu malkeinu l'chaim, ufros aleinu sukat shalamecha, ufros aleinu sukat shalamecha.
Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, until we wake with morning light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen.
It really is a beautiful lullaby. If you would please turn to page 164. I'm going to ask you to rise for the tefillah and join us, please, as we sing. Anananananana Adonai, Ananananana Satai Tiftach, Ananananana Ufiyagi, Ufiyagi Tahilatecha, Ananananana Adonai, Ananananana Satai Tiftach, Ananananana Ufiyagi, Ufiyagi Tahilatecha, Ananananana Adonai, Hanananananazatai titach. Hananananana ufiagi. Ufiagi tahelatecha. Page 166. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah Elohei Zilpa Elohei Bilha Elohei Tamar Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor Ve'Hanora El Elyon Gomer Chasadim Tovim V'Konei HaKol V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imahot Umegula Livnei V'nehem L'ma'an Shemo B'Yahava Melech Ozer U'Mashiach U'Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham V'Yetzrat Sarah. Page 168. Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai Mechaye Hakal Atarav Le'Oshiha Mashiv HaRuach Umorid Agashem Mechakel Chayim Bechesed Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, somef noflim verofei cholim, umatir asorim, kayem emunato lishenei afar, micha mocha bal gevurot, umido melach, melech memit umechayeh, Umatz miya mitshua, v'ne'emana talecha yor ha'akol, Baruch atah Adonai mechaye ha'akol. Page 170. Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yahalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el ha'kadosh. Please be seated. I would ask you now, turn to page 181. Well, I ask you to turn to page 181. I'd like to do that myself. Interesting. My book suddenly doesn't have a page 181. That makes no sense to me, but it's well within keeping of this evening. So I am going to switch gears ever so slightly, I think. Bear with me.
What are you looking for?
Isn't that funny? It just up and disappeared. That's wild. I've never had that happen before, but nothing tonight surprises me. So, with that, I would ask you please to join me in a moment of silence.
דרכי נועם, בכל נתיבותיה שלום. השיבנו אדוני לך ונשובה, קדש עמנו כקדם. עת חיים היא למחזיקים בך, וטובחיה מאושה דרכיה דרכי נועם, בכל נתיבותיה שלום. השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה, קדש ימינו כקדם.
Would you please turn to page 371? May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, Leah, Zilpah, Bilhah, and Tamar, bless and heal those who are ill. May the blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and for their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit. And let us say, Amen.
Amen.
If you have names that you would like to add to this week's Misha Berach list, people who could use a prayer for physical and or mental stamina and return to health, please type them into the chat box and Judy will kindly read them. You're on.
Linda Ehrensaft, Marcy Schulman, Nina Schulman, Joe Wagner, Sherry Silver, Barbara Frank, Emily Haller, Rebecca Hilgendorf, Oscar Hopkins, Renee and Narissa Ashwood, Patty Beeman, Leanne Dillard, Mike Roth, Dennis Sadler, Penny Elliott, Michael Lowry, Tanya Hurst, Sandy Tejan, Eddie Young, Ron Robinson, Ronnie Eggers, Victoria Meyer, Alan Falk, Bobby Crone, Susan Ellers, Susie Horowitz, Ann Olin, Barb Yarborough, Jackie Freeman, Robert Whitlock, Barbara Whitlock, Terry Hurst, Rosa Dubois, Cameron Turner, Jody Comfort, Frank Monteleone, Scott Whitlock, Irene Namer, Sam Namer, Haley Silverman, Shannon Pointer, Ellie Freed, Allison Smith, William Smith.
Denise? David? Any names? Thank you. Any names you would like to add to this week's Misha Berach list? George and Judy Collins. Thank you. Bobby?
Susie Horowitz, Keith Hood, Andrew Wheeler, Edwin Speck.
Jean? I will add Ellen Milligan and Frank Monteleone, Laura Friedman, Scott Whitlock, Maria Zolar, Wendy Fine, Kenny Woodruff, Shelley Perkle, Teresa Martin, Robin Van Loo, Joanne Stein, Kevin Middleton, Brenda Gibson, Mickey D'Amato, Peter Yarrow, Anya Polara, Ben DeSalvo, Marie Plakos, Joe Vargas, and Benjamin Crone. I also wish to name Patrick Collins, who is the deputy sheriff watching over us here in the synagogue this evening. We pray for your safety every single day. May you stay that way. With that, please join us on page 371 as we sing Misha Berach. Bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Bless those in need of healing with Shalom, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. And in keeping with this evening's apparent way of we're going, I forgot to mention Jim Murray and Heather Murray on that list, and they certainly should be well recognized, remembered, and we pray for them as well. And I'm sure anyone else watching this evening, especially Jeannie, may be praying for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. So I mentioned to you a little bit ago that it never ceases to amaze me that the Parsha, that part, that chapter of the Torah that we read in a particular week, it's uncanny how week after week, it's just spot on to what's happening in our world today. It just is. And I've been leading services now for several years, and I just can't remember a single Parsha that didn't have a serious relation to what we're doing right here. In this week's Parsha, known as Bo, the last 3 plagues are visited on Egypt. Last week, we went through, we didn't because I looked at a different part of that Parsha, but the Parsha last week talked about the first 7 plagues and how God hardened Pharaoh's heart. So every time he told to Moses, okay, take your people and go, he changed his mind and they came back. Well, in this particular instance, the final 3 are locusts, which covered every square inch of everything. Inside, outside, people, animals, made no difference. The world was replete with locusts. And then came darkness. Now think about that. In the high noon, when you would think the sun would be bright, Egypt was plunged into complete darkness, except for the Israelites. They never experienced the locusts or the boils or the frogs or the darkness. It never affected them. And of course, the final plague, which Pharaoh spoke himself when he said the firstborn of all the Hebrews shall die. And God said, enough is enough. We will prove to the people of Israel that I am their God. He asked that the Jewish people take lamb's blood and put it across their doorways. I've always wondered why. God, being God, should know where everybody's living. So why do that? And I think it's because here were people who were enslaved for 240 years, having lived in Egypt for 400 years. And they were about to enter into a whole new world called freedom. They had to have some buy-in. There had to be something physical that they would do. And so, the lamb's blood. And then, when they escaped, which we will talk about next week, they really had no time to let bread rise. And so, at Passover, we remember all of this, and we eat unleavened bread, known as matzah. But that's not what I want to talk about tonight. Everybody knows this already. It's a new year. January 1st, Shana Tova. Have a good year. You know, we say that at Rosh Hashanah. But in fact, God said to Moses, I'm going to give you a calendar for the first time, and you are going to mark the year by the moon cycles, from new moon to new moon. Well, wait a minute. Doesn't that happen like at Passover? How can that be the new year? We don't say Happy New Year then. We say Happy New Year at Rosh Hashanah. Why is that? Well, we have lots of New Years, not just the Hebrew Bible or the Hebrew calendar, but ours as well. And we don't think twice about it. We really don't. If you were born on a particular day, which I'm sure you were, people would say happy birthday, that's the start of a new year. You go from one age to the next. School generally starts sometime in August or September. Kids going back to school, unmasked, horrible. Anyway, that is a new school year. If you're married, your wedding anniversary is a new year. And what if, like tonight, we remember the death of one as close to us as we can possibly imagine? This is the 12th anniversary of my mother's passing. When I chant El Malei Rachamim tonight, I am going to include her name. Just so happens to be the 12th anniversary. In Judaism, we say for those who are departed, Livronam Livracha, may their memory always be a blessing. What do we say for those who are evil? Nothing. We do our very best never to mention their names again. I got sick and tired of listing names of our patriarchs and matriarchs and leaving 3 women who never should have been left out. And I left them out. And now I include them because we should know who Zilpah and Bilhah and Tamar. We should know those women because they were instrumental in helping us establish Judaism as we know it today. Tu B'Shvat, New Year for trees. We go through all kinds of things. Every day could be a new year of something. So, we live in accordance with a secular calendar. Today is January 7th, 2022. We keep our appointments this way. But as Jews, we also live in accordance with a particular rhythm of the Hebrew calendar when it comes to marking holidays. Determining when to feast and when to fast is all done by the Hebrew calendar. And so we are beholden to two at the same time. Or maybe we also mark anniversaries and birthdays and wedding anniversaries and anything else that comes along. So why did God decide that with the Israelites leaving Egypt, that would be the start of the year? That was a whole new calendar brought to them. This is the start. Why? And yet we say Shana Tovah at Rosh Hashanah. We don't say that at Passover. He had to make sure that the people who had lived in enslavement for 240 years had new ways of looking at the world. It wasn't enough for them to have freedom because they didn't have a clue what that was. But they were given a calendar, and it was so important, that moment in time when they left Egypt, that it became the beginning of the year. So God was talking to Moses throughout the 10 plagues. God would say, go and say this. Go and tell Pharaoh. Why was he doing that and then hardening Pharaoh's heart? Pharaoh said, okay, take them away. And then, no, I changed my mind. Could it have been that he was building Moses to be the leader that those 6 million people who left Egypt had one leader? And how were they going to trust that he was a true leader? Because he said, well, I've spoken with God. This is what he told me to say. Or is it because he made sure the promises from God were kept? You have to wonder. 400 years, Jews lived in Egypt. 240 of them, they were slaves. God must have known they were suffering. Want to bring it current? God must have known about the Holocaust. He knew his people were suffering. There is no easy answer for any of this. God's actions are beyond our understanding, and that is nothing new. But we still can have our beliefs. And we obviously know these things are very frustrating. Moses was human, therefore imperfect. And that made him relatable to the people of Israel in a way that God can never be. Moses and God listened to the people. They both took a stand. They both invited leaders to join them. we have a very difficult task ahead of us today and every day. Because we have to have a communal commitment to change. And right now, at least in this country, we don't have a communal anything. We have two political parties. Each one sees the other as the devil incarnate. We, as a society, must move away from this because it is tearing our nation apart. Regardless of what you believe, the Hebrew people faced this as they were leaving Egypt. They were being torn in different directions when they got to the other side of the sea, which we will talk about next week. But there were two camps, and what happened? They were all but completely destroyed. We really cannot allow that to happen in our society. We have had obstacles placed in our paths. We have had leaders who will tell us that this is a tuba. I thought it was a tambourine. Nope, this is a tuba. This is the sound a tuba makes. Now you know that's not a tuba. You know it's a tambourine. And yet, to get along, some people would swear it's a tuba. We cannot focus on anger. We cannot focus on restitution. We cannot rail against one another, for what we want is to tear them down. We must focus on what we want to build. Only then can we chart a course toward a better future for ourselves and for everyone. May this be God's will and our own. Shabbat Shalom. Will you please turn to page 586. Rise for the Aleinu. And Jeannie, I'm going to ask you if you will come up and help me open the ark. Would you please rise? Page 586. If you will move the parachot back so we can see the Torahs, please. Thank you. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'ateit gedola le'otzeh breshit, shelo asanu kigoyei haratzo, ולא שמענו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם בגורלנו ככל המונה. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ועושה הארץ, ומושב יקרוב בשמיים ממעל, ושינה עוזו בגוהי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אינו אמת מלכנו אפת זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת יום
וידעת היום והשיבותה אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. Page 588. For you spread out the heavens and established the earth. Your majestic abode is in the heavens above, and your mighty presence is in the loftiest heights. You are our God, and there is none else. In truth, you are our sovereign without compare, as is written in your Torah. Know then this day and take it to heart, that Adonai is surely God in the heavens above and on the earth below. There is none else. Page 591. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו Please be seated. We started a tradition here at Temple Beth David of chanting El Malei Rachamim, a prayer normally only chanted at a grave site or during a Yizkor service, remembering those who have passed. We're remembering the 850,000 Americans who have already lost their lives to COVID. We are remembering our loved ones who have departed close to this time. El Malei Rachamim. El Malei Rachamim Shochein Baromim Hamsei Menucha Nechona Tacha Kanfei HaShekhinah Im Kedoshim HaTiharim Kizohar Akiyah Masirim Lenishmot Carol Nicholsberg. Yakireino Shachu Leoleamam Bal Harachamim Yasti Wem Besefter Kenafav Leolamim Bitror HaChaim et Nishmatam Adonai Unachalatam Bianu B'Shalom Hamishkavam B'Nomor Amen. Page 599. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we've drawn into our hearts with our own. For them all, we say, Zichronam livracha. May their memories always, always be a blessing. May we remember their names always. Are we in a period of Shiva, the first 7 days since someone has passed? We are in a period of Shloshim, the first 30 days for Anthony Bork Ryan. Are we in a period of Shloshim for anyone else? Then we are to remember those who have passed within this past 12 months and were part of this congregation in one way or another. Irma Schiller, Phyllis Blooming, Daniel Joseph Middleton, Larry Kramer, David Yarborough, Sylvia Cart, Rossi Davis, Laura Russiak Rosen, Louis Justy, Michael Bernard, Annette Carter, Edna Dockerman, Robert Diskin, Erwin Finkelman, Mickey Kroll, Daniel Roch. Before I read those who have passed within this week in years past, I want to recognize someone who passed exactly 11 years ago this coming Sunday, and that was Debbie Friedman. Bless you, my dear. Debbie wrote perhaps half of the songs that we sing here on Shabbat. She truly was a brilliant and gifted artist. And I would like to make note that we remember her this week, and that this Sunday, January 11th, marks 11 years since she's been with us. And yet, she's with us all the time. Judy?
Nancy Hearn.
Thank you. We are also remembering Gerald Simmons, Herb Weiser, Jean Porpa, Joel Kellner, Jack Passarello, Yetta Rose, Ben Levitt, Richard Levitt, Daniel Jacob Horowitz, and Carol Nicholsberg. I would ask you please to rise as a congregation of one and join those who are in mourning as we recite the Mourner's Kaddish found on page 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah bi'alma divrach irutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael ba'agala u'v'zman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mivorach li'olam u'almei almaya. Yitporach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yithalev v'yithalal shemed kudsha barichu le'elam im kol brechata v'shirata tush bechata v'nechemata d'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'yokol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'imroma Uya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the one on high who creates harmony bring peace to us and all Israel, and let us say, Amen. Would you please turn to page 647? We will be singing Oseh Shalom, and we want each time we do it, it's a little bit faster, and one of us will be singing harmony, and the other will be singing melody. And Jeannie, you can join in anywhere you want. It's fine. I'm really very grateful to you for pitching in this evening. And before we go any further, you're more than welcome to sit down. With that, Oseh
Shalom. Shalom, Roma, Uya Shalom, Aleinu, Yaakov, Israel, Va'imeru, Amen. Shalom, in Roma, Uya Shalom, Aleinu, Yaakov, Israel, Shalom, in Roma, Uya Shalom, Alleluia, Yaakov, Israel, Va'imeru, Amen. Come on, fourth time. Shalom, in Roma, Uya Shalom, Alleluia. Yaakov, Israel, Va'imeru, Amen. Shalom, in Roma, Yaseh Shalom, Alleluia, Yaakov, Israel, Va'imeru, Amen. Shalom, in Roma,
Say shalom,
Alleluia, Yaakov, Israel, thank you. May the one who causes peace to reign in the high heavens let peace descend on us and all Israel, and let us say, Amen.
Amen.
With that, it is time for announcements.
Please continue to read your emails for TBD announcement and event details. Tax statements for members for 2021 will be sent out by email, hopefully this week. Sisterhood is holding a book club meeting on Sunday, January 9th. Details were sent out by email earlier today. If you are able, please donate blood. There is an emergent need for all types, but especially Group O, to the point where the major suppliers are decreasing the standing orders to local hospitals. The current inventory is at the lowest levels in many years. You can save lives. The level of COVID community transmission in Gwinnett County and surrounding areas has risen to high code red levels. CDC recommends that everyone wear masks indoors regardless of vaccine status. The current mask recommendation is either a 3-ply surgical, KN95 or KF94 to protect against the Omicron variant. Please get vaccinated and boosted as you are eligible. Eligibility requirements were revised this week, so please check if you're eligible for a booster. And again, we want to thank Deputy Collins for keeping us safe tonight and every time he puts on his uniform.
I would also like to wish happy birthday to several people. Some had a birthday just this past week. Anya Weiss somehow turned 21, and I have trouble with that, Anya. It just doesn't register. But the one that really doesn't register is Lewis Walls, who turned 18. As my beloved mother would say, how are they getting older when I'm not? We're also remembering birthdays that are just about here. David McElhenney, Maya Dickens, Marin Duff, Scott Whitlock, who I trust is getting better and better by the day, Ronnie Pesarillo, and Barbara Yarborough. Are there any other birthdays or anniversaries that you would like to have recognized? If not, I would ask you please to turn to page 603, and we will close with the priestly blessing, Yivarechecha.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May Adonai bless you and keep you.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yivunecha.
May Adonai shed light upon you and be gracious unto you.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
May Adonai's face be lifted unto you and grant you peace.
V'yasem lecha shalom.
Thank you for being with us this evening. Please be safe out there. Shabbat Shalom.